Everybody here, let's start. Here's a nigun, a wordless melody that we learned last week. About this melody that every phrase ends with. If you ever feel that you're lost, you always come back to that home base, okay? That's one thing I love about these melodies. There's always a home base to connect to, right? Space as friends, whether we're old friends or brand new friends. Page 128. Let's try that again. Harmony, which I just love with Dr. C, is such a beautiful benefit of being able to sing together, which during some points in the last few years, I know we didn't really believe we'd ever be able to do again. And just how lovely it is to share in that special sound here in person. We know all of our Zoom friends, and there are a lot of you tonight, probably because of the weather. So bonus points to everybody who braved it. Thank you. But we're all glad that your voices are included, even from afar. Even though we cannot hear you, we know you are singing with us, and we know we are one community united across the distance. I will say that this is an excellent opportunity to greet one another with Shabbat Shalom, and I'll invite us that if you're sitting far back and there's only 2 people in your row, consider consolidating. There aren't that many of us here, fewer than 20, I think, in this room. And if you're on Zoom, you don't have to move. You're perfect. You're perfect. Stay where you are. And feel free to just greet somebody and wish them a Shabbat Shalom if you haven't had a chance to say hi yet.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Bruce.
Okay, and Shabbat Shalom to all of our Zoom friends. It's good to see all of your faces. And if we don't see your face, feel free if you'd like to share it by turning on your video at some point. We'd love to give you a smile and wish you Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi Dr. C.
have almost as many friends on Zoom as we do in person.
Really cool.
And so hopefully maybe at the end of the service, we'll invite everybody to come up here and be able to, so that people can see one another. Wouldn't that be nice? Maybe start closing some. Okay. All right, everyone. We welcome Shabbat as ever with lighting of the Shabbat candles. And Walter and Esther are going to come up for this honor. We're glad to see you and to have you. Walter now, you can read that first. Yeah, Walter now is hard at work with Dr. C and our worship team getting ready for the high holidays. So feel free whenever you're ready.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Amen. So we do kindle this light. We're on page 120 if you'd like to join, friends. I'm gonna adjust that air conditioning.
Yeah, this one's.
It's true.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu
Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of all the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Amen. And we turn in our prayer books to the spread that's pages 130 and 131. Those are the numbers in brackets if you have brackets. If you don't have brackets, they should be the regular numbers. We're going to start singing this joyful noise on this 2-page spread, beginning with the Funu Ranana, the beginning of the Kabbalat Shabbat Psalms, and then transitioning to Shiru Ladonai. Dr. C led us in a new melody, new to our community melody, last week. And since we learned it, we're going to now grow it with a little bit of guitar, hopefully some drums, some clapping. And if you don't know it yet, I'm sure we'll do a little review to start, right?
Yeah. It's actually, it starts with the rhythm, which is really great.
Awesome.
It starts with oohs. Okay, so here's the basic ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. You can do that, right? Do with me. Ooh,
I can't hear anything.
we do that twice and then go into the second part. The second part is not very complex, but just a little different. Okay, let's try that. Are we going to put those two together once, and then we're going to start the whole thing, okay?
Yeah, I can't get it. There's no sound. I can't make this like that. Can I?
first ooh, and then we're gonna straight to the words, right? Let's, all right.
That repeats too. Back to ooze. One more. All right, we're on the opposite page now. Shiru Ladonai. Well, I think I know what needs to happen now. Everyone in this room needs to join the choir immediately. We have some singers in here. Well, half of you are already in the choir, so maybe it wouldn't be too much of an uphill climb. I love that. Friends, we continue in our service with Lecha Dodi, welcoming Shabbat into our midst. Pages 138 and 39 in our prayer book. We sing this melody together and we rise symbolically at the end to greet Shabbat as a beloved guest with a bow. I invite those of us who are here to turn and face the entrance to the space at that time. And we have an opportunity to learn a few new verses from time to time. And so tonight we're going to be singing verses 1, 2, 3, 5, and 9 as we build our familiarity with this beautiful, beautiful song. Verse 1, Shamor v'zachor.
Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad, ishmi'anu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad, v'shemo echad, v'shemo tiferet v'litilam. Lecha Dodi, Lecha Dodi nikra kala.
Refresh yourself.
Lecha
are at 3 on Sunday at the temple. You are truly welcome.
Beautiful sound we're creating together, which
Absolutely.
will grow on page 146. We enter into our Ma'ariv service with a call to worship. Baruch Adonai Mevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Havorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Page 149, at the top we read together.
Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows.
Baruch Adonai Ha'ma'ariv Haravim. Page 150. Ahavat
Olam Beit Yisrael Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadata Al ken Adonai Eloheinu V'shochleinu v'kumeinu Nasiach v'chukecha V'nitzach b'divrei Toratecha U'b'mitzvotecha Le'olam va'ed Ki heinu v'oref yameinu V'oref yameinu תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל.
Page 152 portion.
שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני
Page 154, please be seated.
בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום לברך, ושיננת לברך ודיברת בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, בשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובשעריך, למען תזכרו, ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני, אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני, אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem. I'd love to have a volunteer for somebody who's willing to read something in English on the following page, 155. Volunteer to read nice and loud so everybody at home can hear too. It's in English. I know you can do this. Oh, Leslie's gonna do it, great.
Yay. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work. Whether you are tired or you are rested, let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai your God.
Thank you very much. Page 158, our service continues with our song of liberation, Michamocha. A little taste of the miracle should be on our lips every time we sing this song.
ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
Page 160. We pray Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu. Grant us, God, a place to rest and comfortable repose this evening, and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. Watch over us and deliver us. For you, our God, are gracious and merciful. For our going and coming to life and to peace evermore.
שמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני הבורא על ירושלים, turn your page, ושמר בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בבית עולם. בין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ואת הארץ. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נחש, שבת ויהי נחש.
I was with a bar mitzvah boy earlier today, and oh, he's just such a cutie. I love this kid. He was, we were talking about the story of Abraham and God in Sodom and Gomorrah, and we're talking about the nature of a prophet. Who is a prophet? What is his or her role? What is his or her responsibility? And I said, so what's a prophet? I need to think about it for a while. And after, thinking about it, he comes up with somebody who talks to God, which I thought is actually a really great first definition of what a prophet is. And I said, can you give me some example of people who we know about who are thought of or known as prophets? And then he thinks for even longer, and he looks at me eventually after some time has passed, and he said, oh, all of those people in the Amidah.
I love it.
And I was like, yes, again. Yes, again. Because at the beginning of the Amidah, we reach back into memory and time to think of those ancestors who had a special, fiery even connection to God. The people who, we don't know much about their lives apart from what our mythology and our stories tell us. But we have these incredible stories of these connections between our ancestors and God, right? Abraham receiving a call and feeling so called that in old age he leaves and goes what must have seemed like halfway across the world for a mission, who gives himself a very painful surgery at age 90 for the sake of a covenant, right? Isaac, who perplexingly believes so deeply in God that he is ready to give the ultimate sacrifice for God. Jacob, who has the temerity to reckon with God and to hold God to account, saying, God, if you care for me, I will do your bidding. And the stories of the women who are silent largely in their relationship to God in those early stories within the Bible, but who must have been prophets too. And the Talmud, in fact, records many female prophets in our tradition, mostly later. And so every look back in the Amidah is also a look at the spiritual energy which just inspired our ancestors, bringing us down into the responsibilities and sometimes even the audacity that a Jewish person must have in the world. Sometimes listening to God, but oftentimes also speaking to God, if not speaking back to God. So consider this Amidah an invitation to speak to God and also maybe to speak back if you need to. Invite everybody to rise. Together we pray on page 164, the words of the Amidah, and then we'll have a moment for silence afterward.
Adonai sefata tiftach ufia giteilatecha. Adonai, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elokei Avotenu v'Imotzeinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומר חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גדולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה, אתה גיבור אל אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים וחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות ומדום אליו, מלך מביט ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, למען אתה לחיות עמו, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל, אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך הסלע, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please take the time you need for your silent prayer, and whenever you're ready, have a seat.
Adonai tzuri
I just want to point out that I don't say anything when somebody comes off the Mishnah list, but people also come off the Mishnah list. We think tonight of our temple members, Amy Agronoff, Jennifer Casillo, April D'Amato, Norma Diamond, Ken Gammerman, Henry Gettenberg, Susan Glantz, Phyllis Kaufman, Jennifer Keller, Josh Lipschitz, Paula Redsky, and Ellen Warner, and also our loved ones who are in need of healing, including Linda Kaufman, Lenore Shapiro, Connie Ambrosino, Lily Mackler, Janet Stratt, Caroline Wolf, Mickey Bart, Jay Fliss, Sue Yaris, Tony Esposito, Jay Hanflig, Joanne Casulo, Jerry Hill, Mark Ostreicher, Matthew Pincus, Brian Kamens, Steve Kamens, and Cecilia Byrne, Steve Rudnick, Leonore Itzkowitz, Carol Bartlett, Sabine Meyer, Gloria Newell, Paul Frisman, Tim Maurer, Frank Toscano, Ruth Ottenheimer, Joni Pepper, Nancy Pepper, Sherry Cohn, Joan Sidney, Michael Stafford, Ira Weiss, Drew Garabo, Peg Pig, Harold Solomon, Izzy Yagoda, Michael O'Sullivan, and Adam Zelinsky. There are others who would like to add to our healing prayers tonight. Feel free to share their names aloud if you wish, or here in the chat if you're joining on Zoom. Stephen Newer. Diana Cass. Our friends on Zoom include Carol Robb, George Neer, and Flora White.
הרב חיים בן לאה, הנקרא בת קורא אנה.
Friends, we pray for all of them that their healing will be restored and their strength, we hope, will be revived in days to come. And if it doesn't come swiftly, that they find comfort and peace in these days. We pray for all of them on page 371. Words of Misha Berach.
May the source of strength who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
This Devar Torah was inspired by Dr. C. We were sitting planning for the high holidays yesterday. We were talking a little bit about Shemitah. Shemitah which means something like release. And we all know a related word, Shabbat. Shabbat doesn't just refer to this special period of time that happens every week. It actually just literally means rest or stop. And it has a few English descendants. Can you think of one? Sabbatical, or even more obviously, Sabbath, right? Sabbatical is where I was going to go, though. So Lauren wins the prize. The word sabbatical is actually a biblical concept that refers to a pause every 7th year, just like Shabbat is a pause every 7th day. And what do we pause? Many of the norms of commerce. And in fact, the society that we live in is reevaluated. This is a concept that we learn first at the end of the book of Leviticus in chapter 25. And then we read again when Moses reminds us here toward the end of the Torah in the book of Deuteronomy. Among the principles of the sabbatical or the Shemitah year is that farmers are to let their fields lay fallow. During that time, during that entire year, people who are vulnerable in society, orphans, widows, indigent people, they may all come and eat of the produce that remains as a means of avoiding poverty. All crops are open to all people. It's a radical, inclusive leveling of society. Also during this year, according to the biblical world, the slaves are freed, and perhaps most radically, all debts are forgiven. And if you think that sounds extreme, just wait until you hear about the Jubilee year. After 7 cycles of 7 years, or the 50th year, the Jubilee happens and all land reverts back to its original ancestral owners. Wow. So imagine that you've just gone off on your own. You're 10 years in and you're counting down the years because eventually you're going to have to go back and start all over again. The economic system that the Bible lays out in this way essentially erases all accrued wealth and everyone starts on level ground. The land assigned being the most significant source of wealth in the ancient world and a very significant source of wealth in the modern world too. That land assigned returns to the ancestors. And you thought the Bible wasn't political. Now, it is unclear to what extent these laws were actually practiced in antiquity. As I describe them, your mind is probably also trying to ask a lot of questions and examine some complications that might arise in this system. Who would lend money or buy property if those transactions were nullified soon thereafter? What are people supposed to eat if crops aren't growing in the ground for an entire year in the following year? The Torah responds to some of these problems, sometimes, some ways in very clever ways, but also in some fairly unbelievable ways, but sometimes also not at all. Nevertheless, the sabbatical year is a serious idea of Jewish law and is actually still respected practice in the land of Israel, where it is observed, albeit in a highly modified technical way from its origins, every 7 years. And in fact, this current year is a sabbatical year in Israel. As I mentioned, one of the key factors in the sabbatical year is the remission of debts, where it says in the book of Deuteronomy, Miketz Sheva Shanim, Ta'aseh Shemitah, every 7th year you shall practice remission of debts. V'zeh devar hashmitah, shamot kol ba'al mashe yado, asher yasheh b're'ehu. This shall be the nature of the remission. All creditors shall remit the due that they claim from their fellow in this 7th year. Now, I'm sure you all know why I'm bringing this up this week. As you know, this week, the Biden administration announced the remission of a massive amount of debt, specifically student loan debt. When I heard about this, I must confess, well, for one, I didn't believe that it was actually finally happening. And for two, I felt a little petty. Why? Well, why couldn't they have done this years ago when I was first starting to pay off my student loans? But actually, I realized that feeling spiteful about it didn't really help anything. And that actually, I do want to live in a society in which we value education. Sure, I then thought, I'll help pay somebody else's loans. Realizing that we're all paying each other's loans actually kind of feels nice. Of course, then I thought about it some more, And it's really not quite that simple either. Boy, student debt is a huge issue in this country. It's measurable in the trillions with a T of dollars. Just think about that. Is it even possible for us to think about that? Probably not, right? Okay, so a million, right, is 1,000 thousands, and a billion is 1,000 millions, which means that a trillion is 1,000 billions or 1,000,000 millions. What? It's a big amount of money. Higher education is extremely expensive, and that's a problem because education is supposed to be a force for societal good, right? The economists call it a positive externality. It's a force outside of the government, adjacent to usually the market, that causes an overall benefit to society. It's good to have an educated society. In fact, democracy, when it works well, really requires that we have an educated society, which is one reason that I think a lot of us are feeling very worried right now. And it's also a problem because higher education costs more in real terms, far more in real terms now than it ever has in the past. I know people who are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who are still paying off student debt. You probably do too. Perhaps you are one of them. Now, to be fair, the first step to addressing this problem is probably to improve financial literacy. Most 18-year-olds don't understand the consequences of a compounding interest that's working on them rather than working for them, right? I mean, if somebody had told me when I was 18 years of age that I can get this great education and all I have to do is take out these little loans, but yeah, I might get to $500,000 by the time I finish, but over time I'll be able to pay it back, but it might take only another 20 years. Well, I don't even know what I would have done with that information. And luckily I grew up in a privileged way where I did not have to pay out of my pocket for college at all, which I realize is a very special thing that not everybody gets to experience. Thank you, Mom and Dad. I think that the government and schools have, not in any nefarious way, but been complicit in not educating kids in the right way to understand the financial ramifications of their life decisions. And not every family is well equipped to do this, although I wish that everybody was, and they probably would be more if we taught about it more in school. But I know that's not all going to change overnight. I think we all want to live in an educated society, right? I think we all believe that everybody should have the chance to go to school, regardless of their ability to pay for school. I'm not saying that everybody needs to go to college, but I believe everybody should have that opportunity. Everybody should be able to go to trade school if trade school is the right path for them. I think we stigmatize these things, especially in upper middle class American society. That's a different sermon for a different night. And by the way, I think that not only the doctors and lawyers and engineers need to go to college, but also we need educated artists and musicians and thinkers and poets and people who are on the edge of a beating heart of society. I think that every great society since ancient Greece has had great artists and great thinkers. We need to continue to have them. But I'm not saying that we need an elitist version of the university system either. I think that there has to be this broad way that people can access in lots of different ways, in lots of different times. But we live in a capitalist society, so who's going to really pay for artists to become great artists? And unless they're like the top 0.001% who can get that scholarship money. So I cast my vote personally for subsidizing good art and good thought in some way, in a better way than we currently do. And I went to Oberlin College, so I will always be a liberal arts cheerleader the rest of my life. That's just what I believe in. Now, a long time ago, our country decided that education was a public good, and we instituted a public education system. The trick is balancing the cost of that with a sense of fairness and the return on investment for our society in a sustainable way. These are difficult things to tabulate, and I'm not an expert, so I don't claim to be able to do it, but I do have a few ideas about this. The simplest complicating factor in this particular Shemitah, in this particular remission of debt that our country is doing right now, is that while we're forgiving loans, we're continuing to make them. We haven't actually changed anything about the structure that we're remediating. And so I say that not as a judgment, but just to point out that this change is not really a significant change. It will be a very significant change for the people who find themselves out of debt. For them, I am very, very happy. But it's not a change to the system. One economist that I listened to on NPR suggested that this remission of debt makes it more likely that people will take out even more loans in the future, expecting further relief to come down the pipe. This in turn may incentivize schools, says the economist, to raise their tuition to yet even more extravagant levels in the pursuit of higher tuition dollars and prestige, which unfortunately are positively correlated in the college game, something which is extremely problematic. And that's not even to mention what might happen with inflation, which I know a lot of people are worried about. So I don't know if our ancestors ever really forgave all of society's debts every 7 years like the Torah lays out. It might have been very aspirational, it might have been visionary. And frankly, it might have created as many problems as it solved. But what the Torah is pointing out with all these laws is that wealth and privilege tend to accrue disproportionately over time. And policies that are designed to level the playing field can be a really good thing to help make this country the land of opportunity that we all say that it is, or wish that it was, or have stories about the land that so many of our immigrant ancestors experienced it to be. I mean, how many of us have people in their family who went to college for free on the GI Bill, and just what does that do for social mobility, for somebody trying to care for a family and give their children a better life? The difference between the biblical model of Shemitah, of the sabbatical and Jubilee years, and the model of this week's legislation is that the Bible requires a regular leveling of the playing field as part of its system. Every 7 years, debts are canceled and the process starts all over again. Today's legislation is a one-time act. It does not address the underlying issues of access and affordability. And there are reasons to suspect, in fact, it might worsen things for more people in the medium term than it helps in the short term. So I don't know. I'm pretty split, as you can tell about this. I'm really happy for all the people who whose lives will be unburdened, in the coming weeks by this decision. I think that's really wonderful. And you, of course, will make up your own minds. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts after the service about whether this recent legislation is the right tack. But really, for me, the main challenge is, can we develop a more just and equitable system in the future? Can we develop something that is sustainable and fair? And can we do it in a way that helps us pursue these broader goals for our society? Shabbat Shalom. We'll enter now into the conclusion of our service with Elena the Shabbat. If it's comfortable, please rise with us. We turn to page 586.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
591.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Now I invite Lauren Sturman to come on up to greet us from our board, and everybody else can please have a seat. If you come around this way, I think it'll be a little easier.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
A warm welcome to all of you here tonight, and most especially to any guests that might be here with us for this evening. I'm Lauren Sturman, and I'm co-chair of Kol Ami, which is our TBT women's group, along with Cher Richmond, who is co-chair as well. Tomorrow, join us on Zoom for tour study at 9 a.m. led by Dr. Seeley, and links are in your inbox. Beginning this coming Wednesday, Rabbi Moss and Dr. Kasorla will be teaching a class during the Hebrew month of Elul. Study, reflection, and mindful practice will help us prepare for the Holy Days. More info is also in your inbox. And Thursday, September 15th, I am personally excited because at 7:30, Kol Ami will resume our monthly Rosh Chodesh celebrations as we welcome the Hebrew month of Tishrei. And now this year, Rosh Chodesh will be led by Rabbi Susan Landau Moss, who is here this evening. And we welcome all TBT women to join us. We will be on Zoom for this first meeting. We hope to go have meetings in person as well. Next Friday, Shabbat services will be at 6:30 p.m. in good weather on the Madison Green here, and in questionable weather right here. Will be in front of the Congregational Church. Again, Shabbat Shalom to everyone, and thank you, Dr. C. and Rabbi, for the beautiful music and words as always.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. Friends, we pause for a moment now to think of all those in our lives who have left this world but remain very much with us in our hearts. And if you're here to say Kaddish for the yahrzeit of a loved one, somebody who passed away this time but in years gone by, I invite you to rise and stay standing as I read their name. I think of Dorothy Bromberg, Joseph Flatley, Rita Levin, Evelyn Corey, David Friesner, Milton Hershatter, Fred Lippman, Ruth Topolowski, Liam Lima, Hilda Schnapper, Jacob Stutzman, and Abraham Milstein. There are others who we'd like to add to our prayers for Kaddish. I invite you to share their name at this time, and if you're on Zoom, you can also share their name in the chat. Pearl Maris. Joan Johnston and Jack Schwartz are added to our prayers as well. I invite everybody to please rise in solidarity with our mourners. Turn to page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shmei Rabbah v'yamad yivrach v'roteh v'yamlich malchuteh v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei b'chol beit Yisrael Va'agala u'vizman karig imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'yomei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpahar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal Shnei v'kudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya. V'chaim aleinu be'alkol Yisrael. V'imru amen. V'aseh shalom v'imruma. V'yaseh shalom. Aleinu be'alkol Yisrael. V'imru. Source of peace, bring peace and comfort to all who breathe. Together we say, I'll have a seat. Friends who are joining us on Zoom, I invite you to grab your cup of wine or grape juice. Turn on your video if we would love to be able to see you. And we're going to invite anybody who's here tonight at the end of the service to come up and greet the Zoom friends. because I know you want to see all of us who are here too, and we want to see and recognize you. And if you have your prayer book, we can turn to page 123 for Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav ve'atzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho ve'ahavahu b'ratzon hinchilanu. Zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom tefillah v'mikvahei kodesh, zecher l'yetziat Mitzrayim. Ki banu achata, v'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim. Shabbat Boshecha, ve'ahavu v'ratzon, inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadosh hashabbat.
Lechaim. Time to leave. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz v'te'avon. All right, our closing song is Oseh Shalom. It's a melody we haven't been singing a lot, but we did bring it out at the beach a few weeks ago. So if you don't remember it, that's okay. It comes back around and it's really catchy, so it'll be like, here's how it goes. Oseh Shalom
B'Roma, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu. Oseh Shalom B'Roma, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu. Oseh Shalom B'Roma, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'achol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'achol Yisrael. Hu yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Oseh Shalom B'Roma, Hu yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Oseh Shalom B'Roma, Hu yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'achol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'achol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'achol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'achol Yisrael.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shalom.
Thanks to Dr. C and our tech friends and Wally and Dan and our drummer.
Yeah.
And Walter. Thank you.
And Rabbi.
It takes a village to make these services happen. It's great to see you. We look forward to seeing you more in weeks to come.
Shalom.
Thanks again,
Shabbat
friends.
Shalom.
Look forward to singing with you in person soon, God willing. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Did you have a good time? Okay. You're welcome.